Hello, Star Trek fans. Welcome to ReBingeIT. This is the ReBinge Star Trek Voyager podcast. My name is Kim.
And my name is James.
And we are rebinging Star Trek Voyager from the beginning, one episode at a time. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are on Season 4, Episode 10, Random Thoughts. This episode aired November 19th, 1997. Before we start on this one, anything to say about last week's podcast, which was the second part of Year of Hell?
That is my favorite Voyager two-parter of the whole show.
How does it fit overall in your favorite Star Trek episodes?
Oh gosh, that's got to be up there. That's maybe in the top 5.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, at some point, we'll have to do a top 10 of all of Star Trek. That'll be hard. Because it's been so long since I've seen everything.
Yeah.
I might just pick all Voyager episodes, or you know what I mean? Because recency bias.
Oh, yes.
Well, tough to follow up one of the best episodes with anything. So, but here we are. So you have the notes this week.
Okay. We open with a Janeway log and a space shot of Voyager orbiting the Mari homeworld, who are apparently friendly and not jerks. So that's a nice change for the Delta Quadrant.
So far.
In the transporter room, Neelix runs into Tom and tells him he's off to the surface for something of a romantic rendezvous, and strangely asks Tom for some advice as he's not dated since Kess. And again, I think Tom's the guy you don't ask for any advice.
He doesn't give bad advice here, though, for a change.
That is true. He does actually gives him 2 pieces of good advice, telling him to be himself and don't wear cologne, because apparently Neelix stinks of it.
And he gave Harry some good advice recently. Remember when Harry was crushing on Seven and Tom was just like, ugh. So I think, he's maybe not bad at it, but this conversation is a little bit annoying, a little bit 90s sexist, but anyway.
Really? Why do you say that?
Well, you don't remember the part where Neelix says, oh, Tom, you used to be a ladies' man, and now you won't be able to hang out with the open-minded Mari women.
Oh, yeah.
He just kind of glossed right over that.
Yeah, there is the bit where he says, he's no longer single, and Tom says, you're trying to make me depressed. Tom is the worst boyfriend ever. Okay, I will admit that.
I mean, maybe this is just how guys talk to each other, but this scene is annoying.
I don't know. If you got a partner you really like, I wouldn't say that it's depressing not to be single anymore. I mean, Tom is, I think Tom is really not the ladies' man, and he pretended to be. Yeah,
we have covered that. I thought it was funny when Tom said, be yourself, because I was thinking, are you sure that's what you want Neelix to be?
Is that wise with Neelix?
Maybe it's like, don't be season 1 or season 2 Neelix, is what he should have said.
Also, another thing I was thinking of, maybe wearing cologne could be disastrous in contact with an alien species. I mean, that cologne to these people might smell like their equivalent of rotting fish. I mean, how do you know what one race's preference of smell would be?
I do think that's high risk.
Yeah. Off to the surface, and we see a pretty standard Star Trek cityscape of concrete and skyscrapers. And in a marketplace, Janeway and B'Elanna are trading with a stallholder for a resonator coil. The guy appears to be a telepath and is using his skills to determine that Janeway is preparing to offer a higher price for the part. As they're bargaining, another guy clumsily bumps into B'Elanna, and she's immediately quite annoyed, as she is a Klingon, but she pulls it together quickly, and he apologizes. Also, we see the stallholder acting kind of oddly. He rushes to B'Elanna and holds her shoulders, asking if she was hurt. And he does seem a little bit handsy.
Yeah, I wasn't suspicious of him until then.
Yeah.
And then you're like, that's weird.
Right. Janeway sends B'Elanna off to find Neelix, and we see Neelix is chatting up a fruit vendor who seems to be the individual he is romantically attracted to. And apparently, she'd like to tug his whiskers, which is far too euphemistic for me to be comfortable with.
Yeah. This is a very typical Star Trek scene, I would say. Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
Also in the square, Tuvok is talking to some kind of peace officer, and she's telling him how there's virtually no crime left in their society. And I feel that kind of statement in Star Trek is a red flag because you know there's something else going on.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Interestingly, we also see in this scene that she and Tuvok can communicate directly using telepathy. This raises a question. Is Tuvok particularly gifted as a Vulcan telepath? Or is this a bit of retconning that all Vulcans have such advanced telepathy?
I wondered if maybe it was easier for him to communicate that way with this particular race, like because they were really good at it. But, But yeah, we don't see a lot of this with the Vulcans. Yeah.
Right, because this would give the impression that Vulcans could communicate telepathically amongst themselves all the time. So it seemed a bit odd.
I was actually just trying to look up on the Memory Alpha page about telepathy and the Vulcans, because, yeah, that did seem out of place to me. Like, I don't remember Spock and his father communicating that way, or...
Right.
Yeah.
You know, maybe this is one of those Star Trek things where they write it in one episode and then immediately forget it.
Well, remember on Star Trek The Next Generation, where Deanna could not communicate telepathically.
Yeah.
But her mother could. So they were able to communicate telepathically because her mother could. So I wonder if it was something similar to that.
What do you mean?
Because there was one strong one who could and one who couldn't. When you put them together, they were able to because the one could. That's what I'm trying to say. But so I'm just wondering if one of them can do it and one has sort of the predisposition for it, but maybe not the natural talent for it. They're able to do it.
So Tuvok has some abilities, but not like these people so this person can communicate because she is so strong.
Yeah, that's the best I can do.
Yeah, that's good workable headcanon, Kim.
Okay.
Back to Neelix as B'Elanna joins him, and then we hear some shouting in the square, someone calling for help, and we see the guy who bumped into B'Elanna earlier is now smashing up a market stall, and then begins savagely beating the stall holder with a club until Janeway and Neelix restrain him. Janeway asks, why did he do this? And the guy just says, I don't know. And into the opening credits.
The actor who played the attacker, did he not look like someone straight out of the original series?
He does. He looked like the guy who could do stuff just with his mind. Charlie X. That was it. It reminded me of that guy.
Even a little bit like one of the guys who was the half white, half black.
Oh.
He also, I don't know, he just had sort of this old school look about him.
Yeah.
And so I looked him up, actually, because I thought, was he in? Was he in TOS? Yeah. But what I learned is that his name is Bobby Burns, and he was primarily a stunt coordinator and a stunt double.
Oh.
But he did also do some acting, and one of the big Star Trek links that he has is he was in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. He was an actor in the funeral scene at the end.
Oh, that's a good link.
Yeah. The other thing before we go into the rest of the episode is there's a very cheesy line where B'Elanna goes to see if Neelix is ready to go, and he says he hasn't finished examining the produce. I was like, okay. So we got a lot going for us already.
Back from the credits, and on board Voyager, Tuvok is giving the Mari constable, or the security officer, a tour and explaining the concept of the ship's brig to her. She finds the idea barbaric, and we learn that the constable's name is Namira. But before we get any further, she's recalled urgently to the surface.
I think it's funny she finds the brig barbaric, but, lobotomies those are fine. Anyway.
Well, they don't really involve hurting anyone.
Okay.
Back on the planet, Namira is talking to Janeway and B'Elanna and requests to interview them for her investigation. Namira informs Janeway she'll be telepathically probing her mind during questioning and asks her to sit in a chair with this equipment around her head that will record her engrammatic activity. In other words, it will record her thoughts.
No show has ever used the word engram as much as this show.
No, this is probably the record holder for it. It's like the first season of Deep Space Nine. Nobody said provisional government that frequently on television before or after as much as they did.
So true.
I feel we need to talk about the security concerns of putting Janeway in this chair, which can read her mind. This person could be extracting the control codes for Voyager, all sorts of confidential Starfleet information. maybe this is this race's trick, is they pull this investigation on everyone who comes to the world and steals all their information.
There are so many security problems with this episode. That is just one of them. I mean, even coming down here without knowing anything about the laws, it's like, really?
We get onto that when Seven appears.
Yeah. I mean, she's extreme. She's saying we shouldn't talk to anyone. I'm saying we should just do a little pre-work. And we have talked about this before. It's like, let's just, do a little scouting, read some news, what's going on down there before we go there.
Read the planet's helpful pamphlet called Welcome to Mari.
Yeah, exactly. Like when I go to a foreign country, I like to find out, do I need to know something complicated about how to use the bathrooms? Like, do I need money? Because, like some of the public ones in Budapest, you might need a coin.
Yep.
And who has coins? Nobody has coins. So, I like to know those kinds of things before I turn up.
Yeah, you like to be prepared.
Yeah, at least a little.
Does this country have the concept of thought crime and people scanning my mind?
Yes.
Good thing to know before you go.
What will get my brain erased or get me put in like an electric chair? I would like to know these things.
As the interview starts, they do a really nice montage sequence, cutting between Janeway, B'Elanna, and Neelix, giving their memories of the scene, and intercutting between all three of them. That was a really nice little effect.
I do like that when shows do that.
Yeah, because Nimira is constant throughout the whole thing, and it just, every time it pans back to, it's a different Voyager person talking.
Mm-hmm.
Nimira focuses on B'Elanna, specifically asking, did she think about hurting the guy who bumped into her?
B'Elanna, yes.
And we see a brief flash of a sequence where B'Elanna imagined just punching the guy. Nimira seems very concerned by this and announces B'Elanna is under arrest on the charge of aggravated violent thought resulting in grave bodily harm. Violent thought. It's a thought crime.
Yep. Well, Minority Report.
Well, that was a future crime, but it's similar kind of thing.
That was a future crime, yeah. Policing thought is absolutely wild. With us not knowing that that it's even a thing is crazy. Because would we have sent B'Elanna down there if we had known this? We would not.
In my opinion, there's probably only two people who would be really safe to send down there. One would be Tuvok and the other would be Seven.
Seven.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else is in severe risk of committing this crime.
Yeah.
Nimira is now explaining to Janeway how even thinking about violence is a crime and how it's quite necessary for their society as it was once plagued by violence. I felt Nimira was almost being kind of smug and boasting about how after they prohibited violent thought, crime began to drop, and then over 3 generations, it disappeared. She seems a little overconfident there.
Yeah, she's very smug.
Yeah.
And she gets more smug as the episode goes on.
Yes. She goes on to explain that Frayne, who was the guy who bumped into B'Elanna, only attacked the other man because of the violent thought he telepathically received from B'Elanna, and B'Elanna is responsible. And I suppose it kind of makes sense if these telepaths are so easily influenced by external thoughts.
Yeah, do they have no control?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I suppose if you've eliminated bad thoughts somehow, then as soon as something is introduced, it would have a big reaction. I guess you could look at it that way.
Right.
But then you should be cautious about who you're allowing onto your planet.
Yes, thank you. Exactly.
Yeah.
Janeway asks how she can be so sure the violent thoughts came from B'Elanna, and Nimira confidently tells her the Mari no longer have violent thoughts.
Sure.
Wow. That's we don't do this because we don't do this. It's kind of circular logic.
Yeah.
Janeway asks to review the evidence herself and what will happen to B'Elanna, and we learn that these people have an enlightened penal system. They don't lock them away to punish them. And I feel when a race says enlightened, in Star Trek, that usually means something terrible.
Yeah.
Nimara, who is currently hitting 10 out of 10 smug here, and might even be hitting 11, tells Janeway, the punishment is for B'Elanna to undergo an engrammatic purge, a medical procedure to remove the offending images from her mind. Janeway points out that this is risky, and there's a possibility of neurological damage.
Just a little.
Yeah. Nimira just doesn't seem bothered by any of this, but she does agree to let Janeway review the evidence, but she'll only get a day to do so.
This woman has an awful lot of power. She's judge, jury, and executioner. I mean, she's Judge Dredd, right?
Oh.
Guilty.
She can dispense justice at will.
Yeah. She's also the only one who is allowed to, do any investigation.
Yeah.
Oh, do you want to look at the evidence? Okay, just until I get all my equipment set up so I can fry her brain.
Yeah. I assume as she's the last or one of the last of the constabulary still left, she has maybe outsized powers because crime is so uncommon.
Yeah. They've dismantled the system.
Yes. You don't need such a structure. You just need one dedicated person. And she does seem pretty dedicated.
She does. I think you would still need to, I don't know, you should still leave your justice system together, even if it's just ceremonial.
Yeah. At least to review for errors.
I feel like we saw that somewhere where it was ceremonial and then when something happened, they didn't know what to do.
Oh.
Am I making that up? Was that something that happened to Prodigy or something?
I don't remember offhand, but the concept sounds familiar.
Yeah. Somebody will write in and tell us. Often when you and I go, I don't know, somebody sends us an email and says, oh, it was this.
With a complete summary of the episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thanks for doing that, everyone who's done it.
Yes.
Aboard Voyager, Tom is waiting for Janeway to beam back and asks that they get B'Elanna out of there. Janeway tells him they can't pick and choose which laws we'll respect and which we won't. Wait, I think at this point, Tom should be concerned that machine did something to Janeway's brain, because this isn't how she's operated for quite some time now.
Yeah, I wrote down, I feel like we can, and we do.
Did she forget the events of the Swarm, or perhaps the Raven?
Right. Well, I mean, the Swarm in particular, we just...
Yeah, these people don't want us going in there. Screw you guys.
Yeah, so many times after the Swarm, we was like, oh, we can't do that.
Yeah.
We just did it. That's why that episode was dumb.
And the Raven, we're not going to allow you across our border. Okay, we'll put on stealth mode and we'll cross your border.
Just to save a person, right? And this is the same. Why wouldn't we just beam her up and get the heck out of there?
Right.
I guess then we wouldn't have an episode.
Well, the episode would have ended, I think, at 18 minutes.
Or it would have been them chasing us. And, I mean, I can see what they wanted to do here. So it's like we had to make it happen.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been better if they'd at least mentioned, oh, we tried to beam her up, but we couldn't. You know what I mean?
Right,
Just a little, we tried to get away.
Yeah, their facility has a thick roof and they can't beam through it.
Right. It's a cave. We can't beam in or out of a cave.
Yeah.
Ionic interference. It's always ions.
Janeway tells Tom they'll do what they can to prevent the procedure. And if they can, the hope is the Doctor can reverse the engrammatic purge. That does not sound like a good plan.
How much brain damage?
How brain damaged is she going to be? Can she still work as the chief engineer?
Oh.
Cut to the bridge, and Tom asks Chakotay for help. He wants to break out B'Elanna, and Chakotay does show some good leadership here, telling Tom to put together a plan, and if it's good, and they have no other option, he'll recommend they attempt the rescue to the captain. But he does remind Tom the captain is still the boss. I actually kind of like that. I thought Chakotay was showing very good leadership here. It's like, Tom, don't go in with some idiot plan. Formulate something sensible that doesn't put people in danger. And, I'll take it to the captain as an option. I'll recommend that option if it's good.
So we are maybe being a little insensitive to Tom, knowing that he has just started this relationship with B'Elanna and how he can be a bit hot-headed. So I guess taking him aside and having a conversation would have been a good idea. And that's not what happened. I mean, he came to Chakotay, but I think at least Chakotay was quite reasonable with him.
Yeah. And I mean, it is his first girlfriend.
Yes. But remember, Tom was like this when Chakotay was down on the planet with the Nemesis as well.
That's true.
So maybe he's just always like this. We got to go get him. I'm so bored. Remember, Tom's always bored.
That's right, yeah. He isn't really loyal to a fault to the crew. It's just he gets bored.
He's just bored.
Tuvok and Janeway are reviewing the evidence against B'Elanna, with Tuvok pointing out that crime on Mari is the result of exposure to violent thought, describing it as much like the Vulcans before his people learned how to control emotion. The Vulcans just blame everything on emotion.
Yeah, that's true.
He seems to be quite impressed with what the Mari have done, and I'm guessing here he sees them as some kind of kindred spirit.
Yeah, that's the impression you get when you listen to him talk to the security woman.
Right.
Is he seems sort of impressed, and it's like, oh yeah, that's just like what the Vulcans did. So yeah, I think he sees a kindred spirit. Until later, when we hit some problems.
Janeway does find something in the record, and we go to Tuvok presenting the new evidence. Mr. Frayne, the guy who bumped into B'Elanna, had previously been arrested 4 times for harboring hostile thought. which raises the question for a planet that doesn't have any crime and has gotten rid of violent thought. Why has this guy been arrested 4 times for it?
Yeah. Multiple times is the most suspicious. Like, if it had happened once, like, okay, we erased it, didn't happen again. But if it keeps happening, then there's something else going on.
Exactly.
If it's the same person.
Right.
And Janeway is super smug when she finds it, too. She's like, what about this?
She was kind of playing back what Namara was doing earlier. I like that.
Yes, yes.
Namara counters saying, those thoughts were purged, and he was cured. All 4 times, apparently.
She's really defensive in this scene.
Despite the new evidence, she's unconvinced, saying B'Elanna's violent images were in Frayn's mind during the attack, finally declaring, quite sternly, the case is closed.
Oh, jeez.
So in summary, we've learned that there's no crime in this society. They just have to keep on brain zapping the population so they don't have violent thoughts.
No big deal.
Yeah. I don't think this is the utopia Tuvok thinks it is. Namara also explains to Janeway that the violent thoughts must be contained. It could lead to further violence and even a city-wide panic. She does seem genuinely concerned that how this will affect her people. So part of her attitude is kind of forgivable.
Why do you think it's forgivable?
Because she's concerned about it could lead to wider violence and chaos in the city.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Though I think this is part of the problem with it being, all the way down to just one person left in security. Now, everything is just sort of dependent upon her and her emotions when situations like this arise. Whereas if there were at least a couple of people having a committee or something, you might get something a bit more reasonable. But I almost think she panics.
Oh.
Because she's going super fast and she doesn't want to, she doesn't want to hear anything else.
Interesting.
It's like if I just get rid of her right away. Yeah. But it didn't work. This guy, you had to do it 4 times with this guy.
Right.
So whatever you're doing is not working.
Good point. Tuvok tells her he cannot abandon his responsibility to B'Elanna, and he must continue his own investigation. I think overall this scene was actually very good, because you see how very genuine Namara is in her convictions. And you also see how Tuvok really is impressed with their culture. And he also points out that he enjoyed her company. Although, isn't enjoyment an emotion?
Yes. What would he have said? You haven't offended me.
Being in your company has not hindered my efficiency. Back on the surface with Seven and Neelix is complaining about telepathy, saying how it's bad for relationships and it's bad for B'Elanna.
Yeah.
Seven is unbelievably unsympathetic, describing it as B'Elanna's fault as she was careless with her thoughts. That was a little brutal.
Yeah.
Neelix tries defending her, saying she's not used to being around telepaths. That doesn't make her guilty. Seven is just awesome here, replying, then her crime was ignorance.
Yes.
A common affliction amongst your crew.
Yes.
And then criticizes how seeking out new civilizations often ends in conflict. Seven finally saying, you seek knowledge. Assimilation is the most effective means of attaining that goal. It's also quite a good way at ensuring imperial domination of less technologically advanced races. So there's that too.
Yeah, I really feel like she's right in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I think she, of course, wants to overcorrect.
Yeah.
And just say, so you should never do it. But then you wouldn't ever learn anything. And if you don't want to do assimilation, which they don't want to do,
right.
It's really just learn a little before you go to the planet. That's all they would have to do to avoid these sort of crimes of ignorance. Because she's right.
Yes.
This is a crime of ignorance. Right. But it's not B'Elanna's ignorance. It's almost like Starfleet's ignorance to just go in without any information.
I also think in this scene, we're still seeing some of the basic problems with the integration of Seven into the crew. Notice she says, your crew, and you seek, as if she wasn't part of this.
Well, she's not officially part of the crew.
Well, she is part of the crew. I mean, she's not part of the Starfleet crew, but I'd say at this point, she's as much of the crew as Neelix is.
As Neelix, yeah, I suppose that's true.
Yes.
Yeah. Although Neelix has been doing some studying and training to learn what he should be doing to be a member of the crew. And maybe she has started to do that as well.
Well, she helped build the astrometrics lab so they can get home faster and have a better scan of the space around them. I think you would want either training or counseling to get her to understand this is her collective now. And also, I think to deal with some of the issues like how despicable assimilation is. This was done to victims against their will, her included.
Yeah.
So I feel she almost has a too positive view of it.
Of assimilation?
Yes. I think she needs some classes in morality. Perhaps Tuvok would be the best person to deliver these because he's from a very logical perspective and she could probably relate to that.
Yeah, I think I said this in the episode The Raven, where we're not giving her a lot of whys.
Yeah.
Like, here's why this is bad, or here's why this doesn't work for humans. You know, just sort of explain the why we do things. And I don't think she's had enough of that yet. So yeah, some training might be good. It's kind of like when I have to take everybody who has a job has to take, especially in California, these anti-harassment training courses, you know, every certain number of months. And it's just like, okay, we all know we shouldn't harass other people, but, you know, that training is intended to help you understand why.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, some people might be going, that isn't harassing. Yes, it is.
That's just a joke.
Right.
People can't take a joke anymore. It's like, oh my God.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
Staying in the square, we cut to the fruit seller, who's serving an older lady. She accidentally drops some fruit, and we cut to images of B'Elanna striking Frayne from earlier. And the old woman suddenly gets angry, picks up a knife, and we hear a scream.
I mean, this was wild. This little old lady, all of a sudden she's like, ugh, kill her.
Cut to the old woman holding a blood-stained knife and the fruit seller lying on the floor in a pool of blood. Yes, an actual pool of blood. Pretty gruesome for Star Trek. And Neelix kneels down and confirms she's dead. I
thought that was intense.
It really was. And then we go into a very dramatic ad break.
How dare you drop my pumpkin?
Namira beams aboard Voyager, telling Tuvok the woman who stabbed the fruit seller had the same violent thought as earlier. She doesn't know how this was passed to anyone else and asks for Tuvok's help as she's never investigated a murder before, and she allows Tuvok to interview B'Elanna. So things are getting really bad for Namira.
Yeah. I mean, it's good that she has come asking for help, but I could also have seen a different reaction where they just said, you're not allowed on our planet. Look what you've done. And they just ban them from coming down. And she just, you know, brainwashes B'Elanna, ships her back, and they just say, get out. You're not welcome here.
Oh, this was all caused by B'Elanna.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that is kind of what she was thinking, and probably still is what she's thinking here. But I think it was a good sign that she asked Tuvok to help.
Right.
She doesn't, though. She doesn't have a lot of patience for his help, as we will find as we go here. But at least she did ask for it.
Well, I don't feel the character of Namira is very genuine in her concerns.
She's not the villain.
I mean, she cares about her people. She cares about her job. Yeah. And I think here we see she's asking Tuvok for help rather than being arrogant and smug.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Off to Tuvok and B'Elanna, and we go straight into a mind meld between the two. And I'll just quote the Doctor. They go wrong far more often than Vulcans will admit.
Yeah. Tuvok is never going to admit that. How many times has he used a mind meld to solve a problem?
In the meld, they replay the encounter in the square, and Tuvok finds something more. B'Elanna tells him the stall holder gave her the creeps, saying he wanted something terrible. And B'Elanna breaks the meld. She couldn't remember any of this earlier, and Tuvok describes it as an unconscious memory or an intuition. I didn't think Vulcans believed in intuition.
Well,
these humans are starting to influence him.
Or he's just trying to use her language.
Oh.
Like it was something you perceived, but...
Good catch. Yeah. Oh, okay. It's the universal translator.
Oh, yeah. I used one of your tricks.
Tuvok determines he will go and see the stall holder, who he calls Gwyl. And I don't think we'd learned his name to this point.
No, I don't think so.
So B'Elanna didn't remember any of this. I'm wondering if the stall holder was a really good telepath, if he could also cover up his meddling in other people's minds?
Maybe. Or I think sometimes when there's just a small thing that happens and you're not likely to interact with that person again, you just go, that was creepy, and you just don't think about it again.
So, of course, without any backup, Tuvok goes to interview Gwyl. They discuss the events at his stall, and Gwyl says, "You're not like the others from your ship. You struggle with violent thoughts as well." Tuvok explains his people inhibit emotions, and if his unconscious thoughts disturb Gwyl, he'll suppress them further. Gwyl says that's fine, he can't see them clearly, and then offers to help Tuvok with these dark impulses. Tuvok very politely declines, and Gweel is being seriously, really creepy here. He's very clearly up to something.
Yeah, Tuvok is no thank you.
Gweel makes an excuse about being late for dinner and hurries off. But instead, we see Gweel meet up with a guy in an alley. They exchange some money, with Gweel telling him, "I have something exciting for you tonight." And we see Tuvok watching. He's been following him.
A telepath tailing another telepath is quite funny.
Yes.
You can't sense each other?
Well,
come on.
This is the thing. I mean, despite Tuvok being an experienced security officer, he's clearly can't do an effective trail because he's immediately confronted by Gweel and his companion.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you're right. Gweel can actually sense him being there.
Yeah.
Tuvok plays along as he's figured out what Gweel is up to, telling him they could exchange violent images. That is what you want. Gweel seems convinced, but he makes Tuvok discard his comms badge, which is a really terrible idea when you have no backup.
Mm-hmm. Just put it in your pocket and say, "Oh, I turned it off."
Cut to a quick montage of violent images as Tuvok is reading Gweel's mind.
Why do these things always involve barking Dobermans? Anytime there's something like this where we see really fast images that are supposed to be bad, there's always barking Dobermans.
Oh, maybe the editor doesn't like Dobermans?
I don't know. I just thought it was funny. It's they show men in fatigues and barking dogs. It's always the same. These are the really bad things.
Tuvok refers to these images as Gweel's merchandise. And Gweel tells him sometimes he buys, sometimes he's given, and sometimes he just takes them when the opportunity arises. Tuvok continues digging, asking him about B'Elanna's violent thought. And it turns out Gweel and Frayne work together. They both extracted the thought from her. Tuvok now overplays his hand completely, telling Gweel he'll turn him into the chief examiner, which is Nimara's official role. But Gweel's customer has returned and has brought a goon in tow, and a fight ensues. The three of them together manage to take down Tuvok. So a little planning here probably would have been quite good, maybe backup.
There's a lot of security problems in this episode.
Yeah.
It's what is your plan? You're going to beat your way out of this? He had no weapon. He had nothing. Right. And he squished his badge. What are you doing?
Back aboard Voyager, and they can't locate Tuvok. Nimira won't allow a search party to be sent down because of the risk of further violent thought spreading. And worse, B'Elanna's brain purge is about to start. Back to Tuvok and Gweel, who now admits he gave the old woman the violent thought and begins to probe Tuvok's mind. He wants to see more, and Tuvok tells Gweel, "Come closer," then grabs his face and begins a mind meld. Initially, Gweel seems to like this, but in his mind, Tuvok overpowers him and very dramatically says, "You don't understand the truth of violence. It's darkness. It's power." Tuvok would make an awesome Sith Lord here.
Yes, he would. Here is the power of the dark side.
Gweel is now just whimpering, as in his mind, Tuvok begins to strangle him. Gweel begs him to stop and then passes out.
What are the other two guys doing?
That's what I was wondering. I assume when Gweel passed out, they probably chickened out and ran away.
Maybe.
They probably know Gweel is a strong telepath, and I think if you saw Tuvok overpower him, you'd probably be going, yeah, maybe I need to leave right now.
Mm-hmm. These guys are really weird. I'm out of here.
Yeah, precisely. Back to B'Elanna, and the Mari techs are adjusting the lobotomy machine with B'Elanna strapped to it, ominously warning, one miscalculation and we could permanently damage her cerebral cortex.
No biggie.
But Janeway to the rescue, as she hails Nimara, telling her of new evidence as Tuvok beams aboard with Gweel in custody.
But they had already started.
Yes.
But this is what I meant, where she wasn't really that patient, because she asked Tuvok for help, and then when Tuvok disappeared, she just went, oh, well, I guess I'll go ahead and erase this person's mind.
She had quotas to fill.
Well, again, she was panicking, I think, but I don't quite understand how the bad thought gets around. Does it have to be through physical contact? Because it seemed like, no, it didn't have to be. I'm not sure, but wouldn't everybody be affected at some point by this? Almost like a virus?
I assume the telepaths have to want to accept it. They have to basically go into each other's mind and take the image.
Okay, because he did say the old lady wanted it.
Yeah, she begged him for it.
Okay. Or did she and he just decided this is what she wanted. I don't know. Anyway, we don't know.
Now that you're saying that, I assume that there's also another possible way of transfer, which is if they inadvertently are reading somebody's mind or are scanning their mind and they have a violent thought, they pick that up.
Yeah, that I could understand, yeah.
So as long as they're not actually actively scanning someone or using their abilities, they're probably fine.
Okay.
I mean, it does raise the question of, can somebody outside, like another one of the telepaths, put that into their mind without them wanting it?
Yeah.
But I don't think we really cover that here.
We did not, no.
Now aboard Voyager, Tuvok explains to Mara how Gweel and Frayne were responsible for the beating and the murder. He explains how they wanted to provoke a violent thought from B'Elanna and telepathically draw it from her mind. However, the thought was overpowering. It was more intense than anything they'd experienced, and it caused Frayne to lose control. Namara finds this hard to believe, asking why would they do this? And then Tuvok drops the bombshell. A dark side of Maori society. A black market where their citizens trade in illicit mental imagery, and Gweel is a prominent figure in this underground. Namara looks just shocked by this whole thing. She looks absolutely horrified. It's great.
Yeah.
And Janeway tells her, outlawing violent thought hasn't made it go away. All you've done is make your people share it in back alleys. Tuvok just keeps piling it on, telling Namara, it seems you have a more serious problem than the random thoughts of a single alien. And there's a little dark humor here where Tuvok tells her, Gweel is currently confined to the brig.
Yeah, some symmetry to that.
Yes. He could have thrown in an additional jab and said, our barbaric brig.
He could have done that, yes. That Janeway would have.
Captain's log, supplemental. Namara took Gweel into custody, and Janeway doesn't know if this will result in any reform to the Maori justice system. The doctor is treating B'Elanna, and turns out she's fine. She's just lost a few violent engrams and can return to duty.
She's like, there's more where that came from. Sometimes B'Elanna is very funny.
B'Elanna asks Tuvok, if he hadn't solved the case, would he have let them lobotomize her? A bit of an exaggeration, I think, there, but she is Klingon. Tuvok tells her, it is incumbent upon us to respect the laws of the society we visit, unless we don't like them. That last bit wasn't there, but I feel, is that really true, though?
Well,
is it really incumbent upon them?
It is. I think that is the Starfleet way. That is the protocol.
Yeah.
But that's not really how we have to behave out here in the Delta Quadrant.
In some ways, you're like, but what if their laws violate your morals, ethics, and what you do? I mean, what if you beam down to a planet and this society, for their gods, the youngest member of your away team has to be sacrificed to the gods on first contact? Yeah. Are you going to go, well, it's their laws. Sorry, Ensign Redshirt, we're going to have to sacrifice you to their gods.
Yeah, or even if they had the death penalty, is it really incumbent upon us to go, okay.
Yeah.
And again, we didn't do any research, and so all she did was go down there and have a thought that she would have had normally anyway, and so we're just going to let them kill her. Yeah, it's a little loosey-goosey. Again, I would say it's like how we are with the Prime Directive.
Right.
It matters when it matters, and it doesn't matter when it doesn't matter.
There's a great closing scene where Tuvok gives something of a backhanded compliment, telling B'Elanna that the case has given him a new respect for her inner struggle, describing her as burdened by her primitive Klingon psyche. It's a wonder you keep your violent thoughts under control as much as you do. And B'Elanna replies, thanks, I think.
Yeah.
That is some pure Vulcan snobbery on display there. Primitive psyche.
Definitely.
Now in Janeway's ready room, Seven just marches in and tells Janeway the objective of returning to the Alpha Quadrant and Starfleet's protocol of first contact are incompatible, describing how exploration exposes Voyager to constant risk. Maintaining a direct course and avoiding all extraneous contact will increase the chances of survival. Janeway just replies, that would make a dull ride home. I laughed out loud at that. I thought that was a great response.
She's like, they wouldn't make a TV show about us if we did that.
Janeway tells her they seek out new races not because of protocol, but because they want to, explaining how their interaction with the Maori gave them experiences into a culture they'd never encountered. Seven describes that as irrelevant, but Janeway counters with, it's how they gain knowledge. Seven very coldly states, then we are in disagreement. Janeway replies, good. I dread the day when everyone on this ship agrees with me. She thanks Seven for her opinion, but our mission is not going to change. Seven looks kind of confused for a moment and then just turns and leaves. And after she exits, an amused-looking Janeway just says, dismissed. The end.
I mean, she wasn't wrong.
Which one?
Seven.
Well, I feel Janeway truly embraces the Star Trek captain explore space, so...
Yeah. I think my first overanalysis point kind of touches on this, but yeah, so we can go into overanalysis. Okay. What have you got?
First one. This might be an unpleasant one. So, Neelix's thoughts of lustful whisker tugging, were those influencing the fruit vendor, causing her to want to act out those actions?
Wow. You've blown my mind because, yeah, that's what the violent ones did.
Right.
So why wouldn't these?
Yeah. That raises serious ethical concerns.
It really does. And I did have in my notes that there are inconsistencies in how they use the thoughts. So that's a good example of it.
Right.
And then, yeah, why wasn't he guilty of something?
Yeah. I feel Tuvok could literally have turned Guil's mind to mush if he shared Lon Sutter's mind with him.
Yeah, that's true. Or he could have, created a serial killer or something.
Oh, gosh. I guess, he needed him as evidence of what was happening. So I guess he probably didn't want to, technically lobotomize him.
No, he didn't. Yeah, he didn't want to fry his brain.
Because if, B'Elanna just imagining punching this guy is bad, Lon Sutter, that would break something.
Mm-hmm.
Leading on from that, so now they have Guil, who's the head of this underground movement, and Namira, as the chief examiner, is going to have to review all of this. Wouldn't her or the other investigators be exposed to an awful lot of violent imagery just doing their job? Wouldn't this be a problem for the investigators having to collect and review this evidence in what is a largely peaceful society? This could be devastating or damaging for them.
Yeah, I imagine the equipment somehow filters it. If the equipment can read it and either display it or describe it, but it's not necessarily giving the emotion of it to the person studying it, so it's almost like a filter.
So you just get a printout, a very sanitized description of it rather than sort of the imagery of it. Okay. As long as you don't have an imagination, it's probably okay.
Yeah, well, they don't really seem to have that, so.
Yeah. And in staying on a little cynical side here, now, how will Namara and perhaps the higher institutions on the planet deal with this? Are they just going to mind wipe these two guys, perhaps a few of their clients, and then cover the whole thing up?
Hope for the best, yeah.
Yeah, nothing happened. All's good in our perfect society.
It might be hard to do since there was a murder.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I guess it depends on if she's truly kind of as smug as she seemed, and if she's a little corrupt, then I think she's going to just try to wipe everybody's mind and cover it up. Yeah. But if she is more enlightened and she starts having conversations with whoever is left in the police force or the security force, maybe they work with the government or something to try to reestablish some laws or security again.
Namara does seem very genuine.
Yeah.
So she probably will take the moral high ground rather than trying to cover it all up.
Yeah, but you could also see when she gets away from Tuvok, you could see her just going, it's just these two guys.
Oh, that would be a risk of...
Yeah. But hopefully she doesn't do that.
Yeah. Next thing, and we kind of talked about this earlier, Tuvok sees some parallels between the Vulcan struggle and these people. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if this is perhaps because maybe this is exactly like the early Vulcans were as they struggled with emotions, of casting out the emotions. So he's seeing almost like a proto-Vulcan society. They're getting to the point where they're rejecting this violent imagery and trying to purge it from their society. And the next step will be embracing logic.
Maybe he thinks they'll become Vulcans.
Yes, exactly. That's sort of where the end point he sees it.
Yeah.
Leading on from that, I think maybe this is where he's missing an opportunity of like mind melding with Namara to show her sort of the serenity that, remember Suda, when he experienced that, the sort of the calm of showing her what you can get with embracing logic, and perhaps teaching her and maybe some of the others the Vulcan meditation techniques and the things they use to suppress emotions, because it seems like as a society, that's sort of what they're heading towards. And sharing, and Tuvok sharing that would be enormously beneficial.
Well, I think they ran out of time in the episode to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, because maybe he did do some of that. But that also could be viewed as too much interference.
Oh, Prime Directive. I see what you mean, yeah.
But this is an advanced society, so...
Okay, my response to that would be, this is a cultural exchange. It's not interfering with the society fundamentally.
Oh, what you're describing is so. But I mean, it would just be an exchange of ideas, I suppose. Yeah.
And they could reject it or embrace it, either way.
Okay.
And moving on to my final point.
Mm-hmm.
This race really needs to protect themselves from people coming onto the planet and transferring negative memories. It sounds like a lot of their people really questionably use telepathy. I mean, Gwyle maybe wasn't the best example, but him actually using telepathy to get into Janeway's mind to figure out she would pay more for the part. I mean, that's really reprehensible. Scanning people's minds without their permission, I would say that is a no. But at the same time, the damage that can be done to that planet, to their society, by people just having thoughts, I think their government should be maybe restricting who comes down, how they interact, the people they interact with. Maybe that's just hubris, that they don't have crime, so they don't think anything can affect them. Namara's smugness. They don't think that they can even have these kind of negative thoughts, so why would we even worry?
Let's hope that the least of the things that comes out of this is they stop just allowing anybody to come down to the planet.
Yeah.
And interact with people. Or maybe they have some kind of a screening process or something. But it certainly seems like, well, I don't know, because they've already got the violent thoughts on the planet.
Yeah.
They think they've got them all covered up, right? But they don't. They still exist in different people. What brought it out here is they've generally been able to keep them contained.
Right, yeah.
Right, but they weren't able to contain B'Elanna's, although her thought was pretty innocent. She just punched the guy, but it turned into violence, into something really violent.
Well, maybe it was because the intensity, B'Elanna has a lot of emotion.
Yeah, because of the Klingons, they weren't quite prepared for it. So yeah, if they at least protect themselves from who comes onto the planet by maybe doing some screening or something, I don't know. But they're going to have to work as a community to figure out what to do about the existence of it already, or accept that it's just there.
Yeah.
Maybe what they have to accept is that this thing that we think we have, that we've contained it, really isn't real.
Yes. It's kind of a fantasy.
Yeah.
We don't have any violent thoughts. No, we have violent thoughts. We just pretend we don't.
Yeah, but they've managed to avoid violent outcomes somehow. So maybe there's just a different way. They learn a different way to cope with it.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, we have them, but maybe you get them out in other ways. Like we start, I don't know, exercise programs or holodecks where you can go and work those things out, something like that. So maybe we just need to learn a different way to cope with it in some people rather than trying to change their entire society, which I think would be quite difficult.
Worse, what they're doing is pretending their society is beyond these things when it isn't.
It isn't, yeah. Which is why I'm thinking maybe they just need to learn a few new ways to cope with it.
Yeah.
Don't deny that it exists, but you can't deny that they have managed to contain crime.
Yeah.
Until this. So now you have to decide, okay, do we kind of go back to the way we were, assuming that this could come up anytime if we're just letting other people come onto the planet and we're not really changing the way we cope with it? Or do we just have to say, okay, now everybody has to go through this process of, well, it's almost like dealing with your mental health challenges.
Yeah.
Maybe we just have to deal with our mental health challenges.
Rather than just ignoring it.
Yeah.
Hopefully for this planet, it forces some introspection into what they think are their societal norms.
Yeah.
And that, I think, wraps up my overanalysis. Over to you.
All right. I don't have much, at least much that we haven't talked about. Like, it really seems like we should have had a briefing about laws and the risks of visiting this planet.
Yes.
And every planet.
Like going all the way back to TNG. Somebody tell Wesley about the grass.
Yeah.
Don't step on the grass.
Yeah, just if Tuvok had known that thoughts could get your mind erased, we maybe wouldn't have sent a Klingon down there.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Good point.
And there were some inconsistencies with how the telepathy worked because you didn't have to come in contact with someone because the produce woman could read Neelix's mind without coming in contact with him.
Yeah.
So that was possible. Yet at the same time, they didn't seem able to detect that those violent thoughts existed in their own people unless they put them in a machine.
Yeah.
Because if they had been able to, they would have known it was there.
Right.
Rather than being in denial about it. But maybe they were strong enough to stop them. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe
it just felt not super consistent.
Yeah. Maybe they themselves could hide their memories or put up some kind of mental block so they couldn't be scanned by other Mari.
Yeah, they must be able to do that. So while B'Elanna was not necessarily guilty of doing anything, we are not without blame because we came down to this planet with a Klingon, and that Klingon's thoughts ended up causing a murder. Whether we did that on purpose or not, we did do it.
Oh, wow. That sounds like some kind of manslaughter.
Well, we are still responsible for what happened here. I just think it's not just bad for us that we're not doing the research. It was bad for them. Yes, it brought out what this hidden problem was, but it also caused the death of someone.
Right.
So I just feel like, again, we're causing chaos and flying away.
Well, yes, we have completely disrupted Maori society and are now leaving.
Yeah, exactly.
That's somewhat like Atiba's comment about TNG. Picard does all these things and he flies away and doesn't have to live with the consequences.
Right. I suppose that's just a part of it, right?
Yeah. I should probably say, before we leave overanalysis, do we want to talk about what this episode is about?
Yeah. Like what these bad thoughts are representing or that we're trying to hide them. I want to say that I didn't write it down, but I think that I read on Memory Alpha that at least it started as an idea about whether or not watching violence would cause violence, right? Like if you're seeing it on the news or you're watching violent movies or TV shows, would that actually cause it? Whether or not that's actually where it ended up, but I do think I read that was where it started.
Oh,
so yeah, it could have been that. I was feeling at times like when they were in the alley in the dark, like, is this about a drug trade? Because it could have been kind of about that too, right?
I saw it as three possibles. One was a drug trade. Mm-hmm. The other was prostitution. And the final one was pornography. Yeah,
it could have been any of those things, really. Yeah. Just something that you're kind of hiding and almost ashamed of, but still seeking out, Could have been any of that. I think I kind of like the idea more of it being about, do images of violence cause violence? Yeah. I think that's maybe a bit more in the veins of the kinds of things we would talk about on Star Trek.
Yeah.
Rather than like pornography.
Yeah. Is the message in this one a story about a particular moral perspective of this alien race, or is it about the depiction of violence or the portrayal of violence leading to violence within a society?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything for women in the future again, but there was some sort of creepy stuff in this episode, but nothing too alarming. In Janeway's leadership corner, we talked about it, but we're just inconsistent in the ways we follow our own rules.
Yeah.
So I don't think I need to harp on that again.
We follow laws if we really like them.
Yeah. The scene at the end between Janeway and Seven.
Yeah.
It's like we had to get Seven in the episode. Yes, she had one little scene with Neelix, but it's like we had to get her in this episode. So we brought her in at the end for this little thing. And I think it was good because she said, hey, you told me I should speak up when I disagree, and here's what I think.
And Seven is going to follow the instructions. The captain told me I should speak up when I see something. I have seen something.
But I don't think it was a great conversation.
Yeah.
It's almost like what they had Janeway do was explain why the Star Trek universe exists.
Yeah.
Not necessarily why we are so reckless.
Right.
Because that's all Seven is saying. And I think she could have acknowledged that, yeah, that was a bit reckless, and maybe we should learn more before we go down to a planet. But we really are explorers, and we really do want to learn about other people.
Yeah.
But we're like denying that we had any part in any problem. But we had a part in this. So I just thought we were a little cavalier.
Right. Janeway could have done a better explanation of what the logic behind how they behave is.
Yeah.
Why they explore this way.
But acknowledged it has shortcomings for others, too.
That's true.
Again,
yeah.
it's not just us.
The fruit seller would probably agree this is not the best approach.
Agreed. And then, yeah, Chakotay and Tom, we talked about that already, too.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good conversation. So let's go to rating. Thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral. What is your rating?
I will give this a thumbs up. It was a very solid episode. It is an episode that could fit into pretty much any other Star Trek.
And has.
I like the sci-fi aspect of it. I like the idea of the society. I also like the idea of there was this undercurrent of society that even the security officer didn't know about, didn't understand, and almost had this attitude of, why would people be doing this? Our people don't do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked a lot of this episode. I thought the performances were good. I liked the actress who played Namara. I thought she made her a very believable character, a real true believer. And she was very protective and defensive of her people and her race and their ideals. I love Tuvok in this as well. I thought, apart from his mistakes over not having backup when doing surveillance work, I found it a thoroughly enjoyable episode.
Yeah, I thought this episode was fine.
Yeah.
It was one of those sort of standard issue Star Trek episodes, right? It's like, this is where our rating system is a little bit weak, because I'm going to say, yeah, it's a thumbs up, but is it Year of Hell? No. But it is a middle of the road Star Trek episode. It's not terrible. It's not great.
Yeah.
But it's pretty good. Maybe we need to review how we do neutrals, because it is kind of like, if I'm going to say middle of the road, does that mean it's neutral? Maybe. But usually what we reserve for neutrals are things that we just go blah. Yeah. Not terrible, but blah. And this isn't blah.
Yeah, things you really can't get a lot of entertainment value out of.
Yeah.
As opposed to being bad. Whereas this I would say is
This is better than that. Yeah, this is better than that.
Definitely a thumbs up.
Okay, I guess that wraps up Season 4, Episode 10. Come back next week for Episode 11. In the meantime, if you'd like to send us your own overanalysis of this or any episode, or if you just want to say something nice, you can email us at ReBingeIT@gmail.com. You can also reach out to us on the socials. We are on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and YouTube at ReBingeIt. And you can join the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTM podcasts.
Thanks for joining us on the ReBinge Star Trek Voyager podcast.
That's it for me.
And that's it from me.